everyone, and welcome back to our next episode of Healthspan Horizons. We are here with Daniel today from DoNotAge. I'm Melissa, you know that already, Jasmine, our co-hosts, and Daniel, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, both of you. As you just said, I'm Daniel from DoNotAge, partnerships manager here. I've been with the organization for a few years. So looking forward to getting stuck in to some things with you guys today.
Thanks. We are really looking forward to it. We've dove in a little bit to DoNotAge behind the scenes, so I'm looking forward to hearing more, particularly about yourself, company, and everything like that. So, all right, let's just jump in. So, going off of that, tell me about DoNotAge. How did you in particular get involved? What is the background like mission for it? I know you're not the CEO, so you can't really speak to everything, but would love to hear the general gist.
Yeah, well, I have known Alan, the CEO, for a long time. And when he decided to found DoNotAge, I was really intrigued by his mission statement and what he stood for, and the reasons why he decided to found such a unique new company out of the UK as well, especially considering biohacking and longevity had a lot more awareness in the US. There's a lot of the UK market that had a lot less awareness. So we were certainly quite groundbreaking at the time in 2019 when it started. So that's really what sort of brought me to come on board. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so can you just do like a brief summary of what Do Not Age is for everybody that may not know what you guys do on the that are watching it?
Absolutely. So, Do Not Age is a health research organization. So, there's two sides to what we do. So, we are on the back side, we invest heavily our profits into health research, both internally and externally. So, working with universities, health research bodies, and helping them to do clinical trials, whether that's providing funding or our actual ingredients. Um, Most of the time, they're based around the ingredients that we currently provide, but there is occasions that we actually invest in things that we can't provide. For example, like rapamycin, which obviously is a drug, and we are dietary supplements. So we basically, on the front side, we have a pure ingredient range, so various longevity focused supplements, and we also have at home testing kits as well. So what we're really about is purity, allowing people to have all the tools they need to age healthily, and our mission is to extend healthy lifespan for as many people as possible.
That's awesome, and a very kind of shared mission with Rejuve AI as well, which kind of drives the partnership in the back end. And also, you mentioned research, you mentioned purity of ingredients, which is something that we really take seriously as well. So, how does Do Not Age ensure that the quality and efficacy and bioavailability and all that of the products is up to code? And what type of kind of maybe research or trials have been involved?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, purity is incredibly important to us. And one of the things that we really recognized was the lack of authority, if you like, the lack of kind of rules for people, the supplement companies, and an incredible amount of supplement companies on say, certain large platforms that I won't mention that are not regulated enough. And that really drove us on to hone in on the purity. So there's like a three-stage process to that. So working to ensure that we've got the very best manufacturers and we're sourcing the best ingredients. They have their own testing protocols. We have then an internal testing protocol, and then it goes to a third-party independent laboratory to be tested as well. So the having no fillers, having extremely pure ingredients, that's really what we've based our whole portfolio on. And in terms of research, just on your second point there, Yasmin, in terms of research, there's a number of things going on, but I mean, I suppose one of the pioneering things is we have Professor Vera Gorbanova on our advisory board. She's a elite, Sirtuin analyst and aging research scientist out of the University of Rochester, New York. And Professor Vera has previously led a lot of studies on things like high molecular weight hyaluronic acid, which you will, I'm sure, notice is within our portfolio, and also on SIRT6 activator, which is a groundbreaking ingredient. That's we created the world's first verified activator of Sirtuin 6, and I'm sure I'll explain more on that a little later. And then just to give you a little brief overview of some of the other research trials we have going on right now, there is some further NMN trials coming up. There's a bumblebee trial as well, which I'll explain a little more about perhaps a little later. But in terms of externally, we also have clinical trials going on for spermidine and quercetin. So one of them's with Aarhus University in Denmark, and the other one is with Ulster University in Ireland. So yeah, we're quite a global effort for this research.
You literally were you're like almost answering my next questions that I was going to ask, which was what's happening with your R&D, research and development, on the back end? Is there anything new that's coming? I'd love to hear a little bit more about how that like plays into what you guys do. I mean, to be quite honest, a lot of times, like you mentioned, supplements are not very regulated because most people can just say, oh, it's not FDA approved, use at your own risk, and not really dive into it. So I would love to like hear how it works for you guys on the behind the scenes, I guess I could say.
Yeah, so I think it's really important to focus on active ingredient, and not to have multiple amounts of ingredients. It sounds a really simple approach, but obviously it's not always that easy. Um, but that is, if you look at many supplements, they very often have a very small percentage of the actual active ingredient, and that kind of that kind of common thing where people say, yeah, but I don't actually feel anything, or I don't know if something's working. And that was kind of one of the big drivers for us, because it's giving people tangible results. And ultimately, there's a few different ways you can mark that. One is which through testing, whether that's at home testing or kind of advanced blood testing, but the average person is not necessarily going to maybe go out and spend thousands of dollars on getting external testing. So what we've tried to do is make things more accessible for people. So if you can test at home your levels, your NAD, for example, and then supplement for 3 to 6 months and then retest, it allows to show the efficacy of your, what we provide. But in terms of, to answer your deeper dive into what you really asked, in terms of how does that fuel what we provide? Well, it's certainly, in the case of SIRT6 activator, it was, everything is about the R&D. Ultimately, if Professor Vera gets excited about the latest stage of studies and the trials, it's not that often always that scientists get really excited. So in terms of when we get the feedback and when we get these studies, that really fuels what we're going to provide. And not only that, there's also cases where you wait longer for new studies to come out and new research on other ingredients. And then there are times when we will introduce something that's maybe already out there in the market, but we will introduce our own version of it that's purer, has again less no fillers, and we kind of, that fuels what we provide that way too. So yeah, it's exciting and it's ever changing. So it's quite a fluid process.
Oh yeah, actually, I wanted to go back to the testing, because I guess you mentioned that you can or you provide a test for NAD levels, and also you have a general biological age test, right? And so how exactly does it work? What is it measuring, and how does it differ from maybe some other tests that are out there on the market now that are doing a similar thing?
Yeah, in terms of the NAD specifically, it's an intracellular blood test, so it's a finger prick test, and we work with a laboratory in Switzerland, and they provide us with extremely accurate results. And in terms of the biological age testing, that is actually done through a saliva sample, and there's more biomarkers measured than I actually know the number to at this point. It goes really deep into eye health and various different things, inflammation scores, and all of these various biomarkers. And I think for some people, I think some people are on the fence with finding out their biological age in different biomarkers, because I think it can be a little kind of scary. Some people say to me, I don't know if I want to know. But of course, I think ultimately we all need a baseline to work from. And I think in the case of our omega-3 and vitamin D test, and that is again just a finger prick blood test. And what we all know that we've got things like people know that omega-3 is good for them, but do they know which is good for them? You know, there's many omega-3 supplements out there, for example, and many vitamin D supplements. But then it's where it comes in the education. So it's about saying to people, okay, but you want to start supplementing, but do you know where your levels are currently at? People just then assume that they're low in vitamin D. Now, most people are, but of course you don't truly know that unless you check. And then it's about having a fish oil that's not rancid. It needs to be correct EHA, DHA level. And then in terms of the vitamin D3, a lot of people see vitamin D3 and K2 supplements, right? They're quite common now. We actually have a trio, so we add in the magnesium. And then as a three, those three work together synergistically to create a more bioavailable supplement. So that's the theory behind that. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I am interested to take one of these tests. I guess like I'm not so much afraid, but I have this sensation like, oh, I need to like get a bit more fit and like get into a prime condition. Then I'll take it, and then I can make that my baseline. So I think I'm approaching it more from from that angle, but definitely on the biomarkers side, I think it's important that we do actually know those levels. Aside from like an age number or something like that, like knowing which things you're deficient in, which things you might actually have too much of already, and which areas to really focus on, so that it becomes less of this game of just picking random supplements to take. I'm guilty of that. I get excited about them like a kid in a candy store, like, oh, this new thing and this and that, and then don't really have any regimen or rhyme or reason as to how I'm taking the stuff. It's just I heard this one was good, and I've read that's good as well, and got them all here. I'll take them when I feel like it, and it's so we're definitely trying to improve that.
It's a minefield. If you don't have the information, like that's the big thing. One of the biggest things that we focus on is simplifying the science and educating people as much as we can, whether that be through email newsletters, whether that be through video content, or through our partners too. That message is incredibly important.
I think I feel the same way. It's like, oh, I watched something on TikTok, so naturally it must be true, and this is what I need to do to change my life. It's like I get all this stuff all the time of, oh, high cortisol, oh, I must have that, so I need to go buy these supplements to go and fix my life. So, great. I think a little research on all of our sides would be really beneficial. That's why we do podcasts like this, to like break stuff down a little bit easier for the average person to be able to understand, myself included.
Yeah. So in terms of if you were just starting out, right, completely from scratch.
Yeah. Tell me, if I was new, hadn't done anything, what would I start with?
Yeah. Well, I think in terms of specifically, it's important to kind of hone in on just general health at first. So it's important to focus on all of the things that somebody should do. So obviously there's nutrition, there's sleep, there's hydration, there's exercise, there's all of these things. So one of the big things is that we always express this to our members and to new people, that supplementation, it's not you can't just keep your lifestyle the same and supplement with all these things. We're not offering miracles. We're certainly offering people an opportunity to take these things alongside a healthy lifestyle. So I would certainly say to actually just write down everything that you do. Literally, what is your daily regime? What is your lifestyle? And look at it. Let's say a week. If you take a week's data, personal data, and there's so many free things that people can do effectively to change these things. So let's say, um, okay, we've got sleep, we've got hydration, we've got exercise, we've got supplementation, you've got nutrition, all of these things, right? So once you write down all of those things, you're pretty quickly going to identify the areas that you can improve. So, and then within that bracket, let's say it's nutrition, and then you introduce some new whole foods. You maybe do some intermittent fasting, or, I'm not saying that everyone should do these things, but of course, for every person, something different is going to work. And then what you can probably identify then is the areas that you need to focus on in terms of healthy aging. So if that's going to be reducing inflammation, whether that's going to be boosting NAD, whether that's going to be removing zombie cells in your body, all the bad things from the toxic things that we do, and some of them are environmental as well. So there's also it's a less easy to see sometimes where that damage is coming from. So I would ultimately recommend that people do some sort of testing first, but if they don't necessarily want to do that and they're really sure what it is they need, then we offer a starter pack that now comes in a smaller size too. So you can just try it out for a month or a couple of months, and you can then see how you feel, and then you can hone in. So I also, as well, think it's really important that people learn about things like NAD and sirtuins. And in terms of NAD, so I'll just explain a little about NAD, if that's okay, just because I think most people don't know. So nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. So it's vital that everybody has it, because ultimately without it you would die within seconds. It's that crucial in the body. But most people have never heard of it, so it confuses people. They're like, "What's this thing that I need?" And without it, I can't live. So basically, you have your mitochondria, which you two will be well familiar with. They're responsible for energy production, and they use NAD as fuel. So NAD is crucial for telomeres, and they are the caps on your DNA strands that protect your chromosomes. And shortened telomeres are linked to a shorter lifespan. So that is how it all links in. So ultimately, people use things like NAD boosters, and one of those is, of course, NMN, or nicotinamide mononucleotide. Now, most people are not going to say that, hence why we call it NMN, and not to be confused with another thing that sounds the same as NMN, so which is not so great for you. So, in terms of sirtuins, they're a family of proteins that keep your cells healthy and promote DNA repair. Sirtuin activity decreases as you age. So by increasing that sirtuin activity, you can increase your lifespan. And then, so with the NAD boosting, you have things like NMN, NR. There's another ingredient that we offer called apigenin that can also more gently boost NAD levels. And then with sirtuins, specifically sirtuin 6, which is known as the longevity sirtuin, that's why we developed SIRT6 activator. So, would you like me to explain a little more about that process for SIRT6 activator?
Well, I definitely am getting more interested in buying some, because actually this is all very synergistic with the purpose of our longevity app. Actually, is not only just to give these little tracking components to people and rewards and all that, but also to educate people about these aspects of longevity science as well, and being able to break it down into these better parts. So I think the reinforcement of it is definitely beneficial. So yes, you can explain more about sirtuins and SIRT6 and why this is something that is being focused on in longevity at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's many big names, obviously in the space, which we'll often talk about sirtuins and SIRT6. A little bit more advanced. Most people, if they are really kind of advanced biohackers or have been within the space or focusing on their longevity specifically, will know about these things. but lots of people don't. And ultimately, SIRT6 activator, we created it because, as I said, there was not a verified activator of sirtuin 6, and we wanted to really provide something that would have a lasting benefit for many years and have a real impact. It's not about just creating an ingredient that you think people will buy. It's about having a lasting impact on the industry and on people's health ultimately. So, in terms of how it works, it's effectively, in simple terms, it's from seaweed. So phycodin is extracted from harvested seaweed in certain areas of the world, and then the phycodin is extracted, and then it's tested in Vera's laboratory for activation of sirtuin 6. So any batch that doesn't activate SIRT6 is discarded, and we don't use it to make the supplement. And then if it does activate sirtuin 6, then that's what we use to then create the supplement. So it's a very unique process in terms of sourcing, in terms of testing in the lab, in terms of creating. And I think it's something that lots of people can learn from. It's in case of just like going, oh, let's throw a load of ingredients together in a supplement and then hope that we get some good data back. Actually, it's important for it to be that process to be a lot more detailed before people actually consume it. And I think hopefully more people should do that.
Okay, so for the average person, I'm going to rewind just a little bit because I like you guys know a lot about all your longevity supplements. What does this do? This one that you were just talking about, or why would I feel like I need to take something like that?
Yeah, completely. So there are a number of benefits in terms of reducing inflammation, just increasing energy, and there are lots of things. There are lots of we all know that keeping inflammation reduced is a key one of the keys to longevity and the problems that that can cause later in life. But in terms of the wider picture, now we have the clinical trials that are coming back in. We've actually got an update very soon from Professor Vera on the latest. I haven't seen the actual paper yet myself, but I think it's very close to being released. And a lot of the a lot of the early signs are the potential that it has, and of course it's only potential. We don't know this for sure, but there is huge potential that it could suppress tumor regrowth. So obviously that level of potential is hugely positive. Of course, we have to get more data and more research, but that is that could be potentially really huge. And also just for general health, as I was saying, with the sirtuins, to keep your sirtuins healthy, you'd want to keep the sirtuin 6 as healthy as possible. As I say, it's a longevity sirtuin. So that is really the main reasons why you would take it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, just thinking of yeah, how ongoing research will kind of be able to tell us more about these kind of molecules and everything. And kind of brings me to something I was thinking about. It's like a little bit of a future projection. We like to do that kind of thing here on Healthspan Horizons. Where do you see the future of nutraceuticals? Like how powerful can we really get? Maybe with compounding these molecules and different methods of delivery, like can we get to the point where we're actually making cures and reversing aging with these compounds, outside of genetic engineering and things of that nature? Like, do you think there's a maximum for how much value it can add? And I mean, of course, the lifestyle is always going to be a component as well, but just asking more about the potential of it.
Yeah, completely. It's a very good question, and I just think from what I've seen in the last 4 years of being within this space, the progression generally has just been absolutely incredible. If you think about how fast things are moving, how how many people are investing in the space too, which it shows the mindset change of people. And obviously, the more money that's being invested into research, um, the quicker we can get to these goals, and the quicker someone's going to create the next thing. So we have a really well-rounded approach to this. Now, I think one of how do I see it going? Well, I'll tell you how I'd like to see it go. I would love to see more companies and more people focusing on health research. Instead of being profit led, if more people were investing a large amount of profits into research, we would be able to reach these interventions faster. And we would certainly be able to create and find either the next ingredient or combination of ingredients and all these things a lot quicker. So for me, I would like to see the process changed and the mindset change of people that are involved in this. And then I believe that we can have a real impact in the next 5 years. But beyond that, I think there will be there's a much wider conversation, right? Wearables, like various interventions, all of these different things that are kind of probably a little bit futuristic for some people to think about, but it's exciting for sure.
I think that we've actually had this conversation a couple of times on the podcast of people that say that, hey man, we need to stop worrying about making money in this field because it's hindering the amount of research and whatnot that we can do. So I think there's quite a few people that feel that way. It's just hard when you need money to fund things and or your lifestyle, right? So hopefully we'll see that shift in the next couple of years as we continue to progress through more and more. Okay, I wanted to ask a personal, not a do not age type of longevity question for you. So you can just say that you're not representing them in your answer, but I want to hear what your most your most interesting, or what are you personally most excited for in the longevity field or the biohacking field of like what do you think is really cool outside of what you guys are doing?
Yeah, great question again. I think personally, what I'm most excited about is the I guess there's a few things, so I'll try and keep it kind of short. Um, there's some of the wearable tech, there's some of the infrared things that I've seen. I'm really kind of I've seen a big rise in things like infrared saunas and various things like that, and the impact they can have. And I've really deeper dived into sauna in general. So it's not kind of brand new or anything like that. It's not groundbreaking, but actually, there's more and more studies coming out of the benefits of sauna use. Let's say 3 times a week, 3 to 4 times a week, and actually, some of our partners that I work with have done really deep diving into anecdotal evidence and various things at how saunas can impact us. So I'm actually excited about potentially trying to get something that's at home, so I don't have to constantly. People often say, "Oh, I'd love to go to the sauna every day," but it's not. Not everyone's got one in the backyard, have they? So I think for me, there's more and more kind of advancements in that side of things. You see people sitting there in these sauna jackets and various things, or you see people using infrared and everything else. And I would like to see a little more scientific data, but what I have seen recently has been really promising.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of new, interesting, like kind of health tech gadgets and things coming onto the market, which is pretty interesting as well. And I mean, of course, first vetting, for the kind of clinical efficacy and quality and all that, I think it's a good starting point to be able to really roll out more of these clinical trials, and specifically decentralized clinical trials, to be able to gather quickly more data on these different interventions and how basically to optimize combining them. So it's not just so much about what does this one thing do and what does that one thing do, but how do you make a longevity protocol that's actually reasonable for someone?
Yeah, completely. Yeah, it's there's and I think that's the thing as well. I think we touched on it earlier. It's a bit of a minefield in the sense of that not just with ingredients supplementation, but there's also, how much, should a person do. But the reality is there's not one answer, there's not a single answer to that. Everything is so personal, that I think everyone should just start off simply, get all the basics right first, and then if certain things fit your lifestyle and your regime, then you can introduce them gradually, rather than some people that I speak to and they're like, "Oh, should I do this? Should I do that?" And they're asking me a million questions, but really they need to focus on the key things first.
I agree with your sentiments. I always thought that my parents, to be honest, had a sauna back in like, the 90s and 2000s. And I was like, what are you doing in here? It does not make sense to me. And now you have people that have like cold plunges in their backyard and saunas. And now it's just being able to take control of your own health and stuff is going to be really beneficial for all of us in the future. So love it. Okay. Daniel, we're like pretty close to the end of this, to be honest with you. I got like one or two more questions left for you. So, first one is there any upcoming research projects, partnerships within your organization that you guys are stoked about that you can share with us of potentially what's coming up for you guys in the future?
Yeah, so I touched on it earlier. So there's the NMN Bumblebee trial, which is very interesting. It's a little bit left field, really, because you don't often see experiments of this type, perhaps with bumblebees, right? Normally we have the mouse trials and things like that, and the various things. So, just in simple terms, I'll explain what this is because it's interesting on an environmental level too. So, in layman's terms, it's seeing how NMN protects bees against insecticides, right? So, the idea being, if it protects bees, it may protect humans too. So, the bees will be kept in a lab, provided with pollen and a sugar solution or sugar water, and only forager bees, bees that collect the food, will be used in the experiments to ensure consistency, right? Because obviously that's the imitating their natural habitat. So there's something called imidacloprid, which I think is the correct pronunciation, which is basically a insecticide and or pesticide. Sorry, it'll be used at low dose, like really low dose, based on previous studies, and pure NMN dosages will be tested at three levels, so low, medium, high. And those dosages are based on studies in mice and humans. Obviously, we're talking about really, really small, tiny doses here for bumblebees, right? And the doses are designed to make sure the bees are not overfed and the performance is not affected. So basically, the bees will be exposed to the odor for 10 seconds, followed by a reward of a sugar solution to condition them to the odor, right? The conditioning will be repeated 6 times with breaks in between. And the bees are tested 24 hours later to see if they remember the conditioned odor. So, what does DoNotAge or Pure NMN protect against acute exposure to imidacloprid? So, experiment two is only basically around only bees that respond to sugar solution through the experiment will be included in the analysis. So, learning scores, retention rates, and things like that. And then statistical tests will be used to compare results. So, survival curves will be created to compare these rates. So, it's an unhealthy environment. The bees are very well looked after, and everything is done correctly. But it's just really fascinating because if they can kind of um, repel, if you like, the insecticide and the odor, and the NMN has that, it has a really it shows an incredible demonstration of what's really capable within potentially within inside the human body. So.
And so, am I understanding like that they can detect that it's there and they kind of go away? Or are you saying that it's doing something in their physiology to actually kind of mitigate the negative effects that it would normally have on them, or is it intertwined in that?
Yeah, yeah. So effectively, yeah, it could mitigate the effects of the pesticides in a natural, if it was in a natural world and there was pesticides and they were roaming around, and those pesticides had a negative health impact on the bee. It's really designed to see whether the NMN could kind of either reverse or protect against those effects within inside the bee.
And I guess, like, is it already known?
It's
Sorry, yeah, just like, it's a bit interesting. The pathway that it's kind of activating, and if it's similar in humans.
So yeah, I truthfully, because I'm not directly involved with the trial, I don't know the exact pathways and whether and how that's exactly replicated. But ultimately, the data is very promising, and I know the people that are running these studies clearly believe that to be the case. So we shall hope for another update on that soon.
Yeah, definitely
Are you
be
guys
useful in.
go ahead, Jasmine?
I was going to say it'll be useful in the society that we're in today, where we've kind of found ourselves using a lot of these pesticides and whatnot. And if there is some kind of way to be able to mitigate those effects and sort of reset and detox, that would be amazing. So I'm hoping for great results on that one.
For sure, yeah, I think so. Yeah, and this is why, going back to what we were talking about before, this is why these the advancements and interventions and the money that's required to reach these amazing breakthroughs is so important, because actually what are we potentially stepping into here? Like you've just said, could be something much wider in terms of the environmental problems we have and the way that we're opening up a new conversation. But you're completely right. It's very, very exciting.
Okay, my question was going to be, where are you guys in this process? Are you publishing findings? Are you still doing the research, or what's happening with that?
Yeah, so this particular one is ongoing. In terms of the six trials, that is ongoing, but a paper is being released very soon. In terms of quercetin and spermidine, I think they are due to complete at some point before the end of this year. I think some of them may be going slightly into 2025. And there's some other things too that are coming up, and other things that we are getting involved with. So I encourage everyone to be on our email list, so then they can keep up to date with all this information, because it's like the email list is kind of become like a library of information for people now. Hundreds of thousands of people that have been joined us over the last few years. So yeah, there's lots to come, and we will always. That's the best way for people to stay in touch with these trials and get the latest updates, because we will always email our members first.
Perfect. All right, my last question, personal one for you, is where do you see yourself on the biohacker spectrum? Are you wanting to live forever? Are you wanting to just extend your health span? How do you fall in terms of, like, I want to be a robot with like my brain implanted in a chip, or no, I just want to like live with my family and be healthy? Where do you fall?
Wow. I'm going to try and keep this answer short, because there's so many things that I think. Personally, I'm on like my own life journey that was, I was like rock bottom, and then I joined DoNotAge, and DoNotAge is really helped me to focus on my health and to actually understand things a lot more. And that sounds really obvious, because yeah, I'm here representing DoNotAge, but of course, the reality is that when I was younger, I saw a lot of family members get sick and pass away before their time. Being truthfully honest, and there's a number of reasons for that, but a lot of the time they just didn't know or understand the things that they were doing that were really impacting their health, or they didn't take them seriously enough. Whether that's because they believed what they were always told, whether that's because they didn't have access to information, probably because they didn't have sometimes the willpower or the discipline. There's a combination of factors, but I think now more than ever, and you two have already said it today, is that we have access, and we're getting more and more access to take control of our own health. So where do I where do I want to be? I just want to remain healthy into my later years, because you know what, I enjoy life right now and I want to keep enjoying it, and I don't have some figure or something in my head where I'm like, I want to live to. Lots of people keep saying this to me, and I keep hearing like, I want to live to 120, I want to live to this, I want to do this. You can imagine I hear that a lot in my role, but the truth is I don't have that number in my head. I have a belief from everything I've learned that it is possible to still have a fun, energetic, um, youthful feeling existence, into your 80s, 90s, maybe beyond. So that's where I'm at. But maybe things will change in 5, 10 years when new things happen. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel the same way as you do. There are some people that we have come on here that say, death is not going to exist in 10 years from now, and we're all going to be able to live for forever. And I go, okay, do the research. I will support it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, Daniel, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure chatting with you today. I guess you talked about your email newsletter. If there's any way for people to get in contact with you guys, follow you, what do you recommend? Hit
I'm
us with
sure
your
we've got
last little
some
spiel.
some promos as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Of course. I mean, the best place is to visit our website, which you can see right here, is DoNotAge.org. And you join our email list, and then we're on all the major platforms: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We even have a YouTube channel. There's various ways to consume the content and to get in touch. And people, we have a great customer service team. You can email in to hello@donatage.org with questions. And yeah, so there's lots of things, there's lots of ways to keep in touch, and lots of ways to consume the
Awesome.
information.
All right. Thank you so much. And we will sign off and see you next time.